Hello and welcome to the very first CTS podcast. I'm Cameron Sanders, co-host and co-founder of Camat Talent Solutions. This is my co-host Sam McKenzie, also co-founder of Camat Talent Solutions. Pleased to welcome our very first guest, Mr. Jack Wilson.
Thank you very much, Cameron. All good, mate. All good.
Good. Well, look, we'll kick off, nice and easy. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, so boys, thank you for the obviously invitation to the podcast today. Excited to be a part of your guys' journey. Obviously, I met you, Cameron, when you first moved to Dubai, and now we're obviously great friends. But so my journey itself, I started at a prop tech company called House Network, worked for two really inspiring entrepreneurs, Graham Locke and Mark Reddings. And that's when I first started to learn about sales, and the company was revolutionary at the time and disruptive in the marketplace. And I grew there. I loved that business, and I learned a lot about sales, a lot about rejection, and that part that my journey there. Then when I really sort of started to learn about sales in more detail, and this one important thing, which is creating a scalable, predictable process, was actually at Doctify, and my mentor there was Alistair Doig. And that's when I really started to understand the importance of three main areas, I think, which is the process, the people, and the content. I think that's when I really started to hone in around how do we make this predictable, how do we make this scalable, and how do we track it at all times. That's where the journey sort of started for me. And now I'm here sat in front of you boys in Dubai.
Great. Thanks for running through it. I guess tell us a bit more about your journey into leadership. I think touch on Doctify, what they do, what pain are they actually, filling?
Yeah.
And your growth into the UAE and APAC, which are the areas you focus on.
Yeah. So I'll start with what does Doctify solve. So we're a healthcare business. We provide a solution that allows doctors, clinics, and hospitals to manage their online reputation. Yeah. So we have a verified review solution. And for patients have a choice, a difficult choice every single day. And your health is something you can't control. So when you have an illness and you've been recommended to several number of doctors or hospitals or clinics, you tend to search online to look for the right information. So what we provide patients is that verified source that they can read reviews about the hospital or clinic they want to go to. I can then read a review about the doctor I want to see, but also more importantly, I can read a review about the specialty or the treatment that I want to have. So a knee surgery, for example. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is create more transparency in the healthcare market and direct patients to the right doctor for the healthcare needs, because I guess picking the wrong doctor or wrong hospital or clinic is a real problem. It's not like picking the wrong restaurant and getting a bad meal.
Yeah.
So that's what we help with patients, and with the doctors and the clinics, it's making sure that they're highlighted for the right treatment specialties, and making sure that they can manage their online reputation and they can build and grow their practice with us. That's what we do for our clients and for patients, which is more important. In terms of my journey into leadership, my first big leadership role was I was appointed as global head of SDR. And I was managing a team of 25 in 4 countries. And the previous gentleman before me had the role, had such great experience, director, CEO, years of experience as a director. Whereas Alistair and Stephanie, CEO of Doctify, sort of really sort of said this, like, we'll give you a chance on this, and trusted me I could deliver. So that was my first experience right in the deep end of managing a team across 4 countries, different nationalities, different languages. And that was my first experience of leadership, proper leadership. And it was exciting. It was nerve-wracking, and it was also fun. And it was also the time I learned the most, and I think it's really important.
In the first leadership role.
Yeah, of course, because it was all brand new to me, so I sort of didn't know what to expect. And having that guidance and trust from senior leadership really allows you to sort of be creative and try and build that high performing sales culture that we wanted and did build at that time.
Just touch upon your journey from the UK, where you first began, and then transitioning across to the UAE, because I presume that you started at Doctify in the UK, and then how different were the regions, and if you were managing the region from the UK to begin with, or was it a case of actually moving out here?
Yeah. So I started in the UK. It was 25 people, and then now it's 6 offices, 200 staff potentially, maybe slightly less now. The real differences for me about coming here is communication styles. I really was taken aback because there's so many different cultures here, and managing in the UK, everyone has a similar sort of communication style. How to receive communication, how to deliver communication.
Yeah.
And there's twofold to this. One is communication style to prospects and customers, and then the other one is communication style to staff, right? And trying to get them motivated in the right way. And when I first moved here, it's very direct here, right? Very, very direct. There's no small talk. In the UK, it's all very polite and pleasant. Here, it's straight to the point. So when people were delivering feedback to me, as people I work with, it's like, goodness, like, is he offending me? Like, I didn't understand it. But over time, I understood that was their communication style. And it's my job to be able to not take that personally and to understand that's how they communicate to me, and for me to deliver a similar style back to them. And once I got that right, I then saw motivation of individuals increase, right? Because at the start, I wasn't being that flexible with my communication style, but eventually I understood that it's really important that I adapt my style to them, and not for me to expect them to adapt to my style. I think that's how we managed to go quicker. And then in terms of the sales aspect, as that's management, I find here, I don't know if you guys disagree or agree. I find the initial part of a sales conversation, top of funnel, as in booking a meeting, we find that slightly easier here in the region.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It's a network-driven region, isn't it?
Exactly.
Everyone wants to meet. It's small. Everyone's happy to grab a coffee. But then it's about, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, it's about sieving out who just wants to meet you and who actually is a genuine prospect.
It's spot on, right? So you're spot on, and I'll we increase activity and meetings booked. Well, this is easy, right? And then you go, well, hang on, the close rate's not moving. Why is the close rate so poor? And in the UK, getting a meeting is difficult because people have very high resistance to sales on initial cold call, right? So getting a meeting in the UK is more difficult. But when you get a meeting in the UK, what I found is discovery phase, everyone's so open.
High close rate, I assume.
Well, potentially high close rate, yeah. But the point was the discovery phase was really nice. They open up, they're very friendly, they talk about their problems and their pains, right? Whereas in the UAE, when we get to that meeting, the meeting, they don't open up. As soon as you meet them, they're like, their barriers come up. We're like, hang on, you want to have a meeting with me, now your barriers are up. So for us, it was, how do we build trust immediately in this pitch that allows them to open up? Yeah. So that's the other part of the communication piece that we had to adapt, was how do we pivot from the UK style and the UE style? And I think it's really important. And when you enter new markets, it's really important to adapt your messaging and your value proposition to that market, right? You can't have the UK style here. You can't have the UK style in Germany. You can't have the UK style in Australia. It's different per market. So that was probably the biggest lesson I learned in moving here and operating in this market.
Yeah, I think, look, we come across that on a day-to-day. We've got companies in the US, in Australia, in Europe who want to just copy and paste into the Middle East. But as you know, you have to be here. It's absolutely integral that you build face-to-face time, or you just won't succeed. I think if you've got relationships prior, then maybe, but I think you've got to be here. So we've been through the pain of that, and you come out the other side. It takes time, right? I think that touches nicely onto a part where you should be bigging us up, which is your thoughts on scaling teams, any issues you've had in the UAE, what are the biggest problems you've faced, and how have you overcome them?
So yeah, I mean, so what I think of you guys, obviously exceptional at your jobs, right? And I work with Cameron obviously very closely, and the same yourself. But what I feel you guys have delivered for me in particular was a real sound understanding of the business, and you were able to paint a picture of our ideal candidate, and then provide those ideal candidates for us, right? In the UAE, you get a lot of candidates that are not the right fit for you. So having you guys there, knowing exactly what we wanted, and then putting that person in front of me meant that I could hire people very quickly. And one instance, as Cameron knows, we were hiring a role in Australia. We couldn't fill for several months, right? I met you, came in, told you what I wanted. You have experience with SaaS and in Australia. And I think within 7 to 14 days, I had 2 offers on the table. Sure. Yeah. And one of those gentlemen was one of our best ever hires. It's fantastic, right? So I think both your experience with SaaS and in particular sales, and marrying that up with what we wanted just made complete sense. And hiring the right people is probably the most difficult part of scaling a business. Hire the wrong person, you're set back. Yeah. Hire the right person, you grow really quickly. So I think you boys are fantastic, and I recommend you to many different companies I speak to and friends and colleagues.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. So you touched on their challenges in scaling teams across the UAE.
Yeah.
From a culture perspective, obviously it's a very, let's say, expat-driven community in Dubai, but then also the Arabic speaking would massively help in your sector and opening doors in the hospitals and the clinics that you're trying to have as your clients. So what would you say is the biggest challenge with finding the right person from a culture perspective, and how multicultural is your team in general?
Yeah, so the team's very, very much cultural. We have people from all around the world in our business. The main challenge, we're a feedback platform, right? So we provide feedback to doctors. And you collect feedback for 2 reasons, right? One is to understand your business and make improvements, so insights. The other side, commercially, is to publish that feedback online so you can attract more patients. So why am I telling you that? Is because what I really look for and what I think builds a great team is having everyone in your team that is very coachable, right? So coachability is an extremely important trait for us here at Doctify. And if you're coachable, it means you're willing to listen. If you're coachable, it means you're willing to implement what you've been told. And that then allows us to be all on the same page, to create the same culture, same drive. So coachability for me is one of the most important things to recruit for. The other thing that we really want is someone that's constantly, it's very difficult, is in this growth mindset. Yeah, because as we all know, sales is difficult.
Yeah.
You get more no's than yeses, right? So you have to always be in a growth mindset, right? So I think if we can get someone coachable, then we can teach them how to put themselves into growth mindset, that resilience piece, right? And if they're coachable, we can also help them be better at sales, right? So I think, and we test for that in our interview process, which you guys know with the role play, and we give feedback, and we're looking at, when I'm giving feedback, are they writing notes down? Are they asking questions similar to the feedback, right? And then later on in the interview, we then do the role play again, and we're looking for, are they implementing feedback that we gave them earlier, right? And you'd be really surprised how many people fail that test, right? That's one key metric for us that helps us build great sales teams across the world.
Great. And I think this question probably couples quite nicely into, you did a year of enablement as well.
Yeah.
As you know, sales enablement in the Middle East is still new. Sales ops, there's not so many people on the ground, so it might be good for you to explain that in a bit more detail. But the question is, which sales methodologies or frameworks have you implemented that work for the team? I assume it goes back to your enablement times, but maybe just touch on that a bit as well.
Yeah. So the sales philosophy that we use here in the UE is a solution-based selling philosophy, right? So, if you ask any of the sales team that I work with, when I listen to role plays or listen to video recordings, or I go to in a pitch, the first thing I'll always say is, where's the pain? Where's the need? Have you asked enough questions, right? I think people can get into a habit of just feature selling, and just speaking too much, right? And the quote that I was told early in my sales career is, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You should use your ears, you listen more, right? So for us, solution-based selling is the only way forward for us currently, right? That's the way I believe we should sell. It's always asking questions, identifying a pain, which then correlates to a need, and that need you provide a solution for. Yeah, so it's a customized pitch per person, because ultimately different people have different needs. That's why in our business, our solution is we have multiple different features that solve multiple different solutions, needs, but not everyone has that problem. So you have to go through a process of solution-based selling. So that's what we train our team on. We have a framework that we built. When was it? I think the first version of the framework was built just after COVID.
By you?
Yeah, by myself. Yeah, and
globally that was rolled out.
Yeah. So myself. Yeah. So that was built by myself, and we implemented that in the UK first. And that framework enabled us to push conversion rates up over the 35% mark. I think at the time it was 25% close rates. But also what was really impactful, actually, which we didn't really realize, by having this framework, we're able to ramp salespeople very quickly to full target. So going from a 6-month ramp to a 2.5-month ramp, right? Because we were building a repeatable, scalable framework, which was so easy to grasp, and also was educating our new starters and train them to put them in the best position for the rest of their sales career.
I think enablement's so important, and Doctify fortunate that you've got a dedicated team, I believe, or at least one person.
Yes.
But a lot of companies out here don't have sales enablement. They don't have sales ops. So it affects you from, I mean, some of them are too small to yet, but it affects you from onboarding all the way through to sales training, marketing to actually take out to prospects. Yeah. It's so key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people think it's a nice to have, right? But actually it's a need to have. Like, once you have sales enablement in your business, you know how important it is. Like, it is extremely important. If you're not upskilling your staff, then you're not going to grow your business. And if you're not creating a unified process or content, which is always tailored by the directors of the region, right? Then you're not going to grow quickly. And every SaaS company wants to grow as possible. So I think it's critical, absolutely critical.
Cool.
So you've talked a lot there on the theoretical side of, teaching newcomers into your business, keeping people upskilled on their, performance that are already in the business. How do you build and maintain a really high performing culture throughout?
Yeah. So I'll talk you through my first leadership role, right? And what we did there, and how we managed to create a great performing sales team. So when I took the role on, the first thing I did was I met every single person, right? I asked them a couple of things. One being, what do they love about Doctify, right? What are we doing that we need to change, right? And what things should I continue doing, right? So I met 25 people, and it was just to understand where are the 4 core areas that I need to focus on to drive this high-performing sales culture. And one thing, for the 4 things that arise were building a better commission structure, classic from the sales team. I know, right? And
right,
then,
if they didn't say that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right.
That's what we do it for.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one thing. The other thing that was that popped up was data, right? We want better data. I think that's really important, right? Because we expect so much from salespeople, and if we're not delivering them the correct data, right, good quality data, then they can't do their jobs. And that's why sales ops is really important, Cam, is getting that process right, okay? Other thing that they really wanted was training development program. They want to be upskilled, right? And the third thing was, this is really important, is having a really clear progression plan. I think we really underestimate how important that is for people, right? So those are the 4 key areas that I developed. We developed a Doctify Academy, which was built by myself and Stephanie, CEO. We did daily training, right, in support of sales enablement, which is fantastic because we're working on all parts of the funnel, right? And everyone loved it. And I actually enjoyed it myself, to be fair. Data, we got better data into the team. And then we had a really clear progression structure, right? And also, we also had a very clear underperformance structure, right? So if you underperform, you've got a coaching plan. And that coaching plan is to get you better. We don't want to lose people because, like I said, it takes time to find someone, right? And if you've had the wrong person, it's not good for the business. So having that accountability for, if you perform really well, you get promoted, you get your pay rise, you get your senior SDR title, you get your AE title after that, senior AE. And I think you give salespeople a real clear vision, give them the right training, give them the right leads, and they'll just fly, absolutely fly.
Well, I think you've done your job then, because then it's really on them, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And if you have to walk away or they have to walk away, you know you've done everything. And that does couple into general industry standards, to be honest. And we speak to people all day and we ask them, what are your 3 motivators? Why are you moving? Or why are you looking to move?
Yeah, good point.
And number 1's leadership.
Yeah.
And you've touched on how you became a better leader. They want to sell the best product and they want to progress. They are the 3 industry standard across the
money.
We try and not talk about money as much as possible. And just have that as a bonus.
Yeah.
But of course, we're all in sales, right?
Yeah.
And what one thing would you say is the biggest mistake salespeople make, and how could they avoid it? Maybe do that generally, and then in your experience at Doctify or in the prop tech.
Yeah. So, good question. To be fair, so I still have a sort of mentor outside of my current role, and we always touch upon how do we keep people motivated, hungry? How do we make sure that they don't underperform, right? And the mistakes they make. And he built this thing for me, and I'll explain it to you because it's quite interesting. It's a 4-box matrix, right? And each box, a different thing. And the top box, and it's based on activity and deals. Very straightforward, right? That's what we do. The more activity you do, the more deals you make. Simple as. And when a new starter starts at a business, right, they're normally in this top right box. We call it happy feet, right? Happy Feet, the film, right? This penguin, right? He didn't know what he was, he had a different skill set to everyone else, but was confused, didn't know where he was going, right? So a new starter for us is in this position, right? They have high activity but low deals. They're new. The job then is from director and sales enablement to move them in to this next box, which is star. This is someone who has high activity and high number of deals. My job then is to make sure that we keep this person in this box. Because what tends to happen, right, and we've all been there, all of us, this is the pitfall that happens, is we start to get really good at our job and we can do less activity and have the same amount of deals.
Yep.
And we call this person a cash cow, right? Okay. The problem with this is that when things don't go right and they can't close for whatever reason it is, they move into this bottom right box, right? And it's very hard for someone who's been in this cash cow box, very hard for them to push themselves back on activity and get up again. So it's that complacency. And that's what I'm trying to say is we have this, and we're trying to always monitor, where is someone in this box? How do we prevent them from slipping down, right? Because we know if you start getting to complacency, then you end up in this unmotivating fourth box, which we don't want you to be in, right? So I think it's the complacency and not pushing yourself day in, day out to be better, effectively.
And a bit off the cusp, but in your experience of managing, you've obviously done the old school cowboy sort of sales. What do you think the split between talent and output is? Would you rather almost, and I'm not trying to get you to talk to your team here, would you rather someone who works 150% but is less talented? Or would you rather someone who's naturally talented? Because that kind of couples into what you're saying about the box, because I bet the person who's more naturally talented doesn't need to do as much work. But
that person doesn't create the right culture for me.
Okay.
So I'd rather lose someone like that than retain them, because we want everyone on the same page.
What would your breakdown be of, like, obviously in an ideal world, they're naturally talented and they work hard. What do you think the percentage is between what actually you need to succeed as a successful salesperson?
In regards to what? Sorry, give me that again.
So the percentage between, less 100%, right?
Yeah.
What percentage do you think is hard work, and what percentage do you think is talent? Natural talent. Because you have to have something about you to be. I don't think it's something you can definitely improve on, but I think you have to have the gift of the gab to some extent to have the confidence to pick the phone up and go out and meet people. What do you think the split is, in your opinion?
I think it's also industry and company tailored. So, like, we're transactional selling, right? So you need less gift of the gab, right? Okay. If you have a complex sale, enterprise level, then I think there is a lot more gift the gab needed, or natural sales ability. One of my mates who's based in London, works in finance sector. He is literally the best salesperson I've ever seen.
George.
Right? Yeah, George. Yeah, and he's also great on activity. So he's basically gold standard, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a hard question to answer, Cameron, but I would probably say you need to have, 40-60. 40% gift the gab and 60% the grind and grit and determination, because ultimately, if you can't open doors, then no matter how good you are at sales, you're not going to close any money. Yeah. So the only way that works, right? The only way that works with the gift of the gab is if they have an SDR, books what it means for them, right? And I think if you have that model, then you can afford to take someone like that we were speaking about. But in our position is, we're now moved to a 360 approach. So we need people that can hunt and also close.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was having a chat with a VP yesterday, and we were talking about how reliant AEs are on SDRs. And, will eventually the SDR role die out, because shouldn't the AEs just be generating at least 50% of their own business regardless? So it's interesting you say that.
Yeah. I think there's always a place for SDRs, 100%, but it's about the expectations set by the business, that if your target is X, we still expect you to deliver 50% SDR and 50% your own revenue, right?
So it is a 50-50.
We still have now, like, we expect, so basically, for example, we've got one SDR for our mid-market team here and 2 AEs. Okay. His target is 50% of their target. Right, so we expect them to find the other 50% themselves. Right?
Did they get monetized on that as well? Like, if they do 100% 360, would they earn more? It is the same, okay? It's just expectation.
Yeah. So it's clear. Like, but if you don't have that clear expectation, then an AE could slip into the relying on SDR to generate them that revenue, right? And I think you've got to be always sharpen all your tools, prospecting, closing, a lot. I think you need to be on it all the time.
Like, I used to be an SDR, so I'm a big advocate.
Yeah, same.
I think, you have to, especially when you're stepping into our world of software as a service, to learn tech and to learn how to generate leads, that will never come naturally. You have to learn it. And an SDR role is the perfect role for that, for 18 months. And then, the natural step is head of SDR or IE.
Yeah.
And I agree.
The most important part of this is opening doors, right? If you're really good at opening doors as an SDR, you're very valuable, like super valuable, right? No one likes opening doors, like prospecting, right? So it's tough, right? And it's relentless, and it's same thing every single day. So if you can really get good at that, then you become extremely valuable. And that's why I love my time as when I ran the SDR team, because that's the engine room. If that meeting doesn't happen, if I can't get through the front door, I'm not closing any business. So the SDRs I think will be here to stay. But it's about the company having the right expectations of, if we give you an SDR, we expect this much more revenue. Whereas if you've got a 360 person, we don't expect this much.
It's the same in recruitment. When we've worked, both me and Sam, at agencies, if you do a 360 deal, you get paid X amount. If you do a 180 deal, you get paid X amount.
There you go.
So your absolute drive is in bringing on your own business, because essentially, generally, I would say industry-wide, you earn double.
Yeah.
So you're targeted on money. So no, I completely get it. So I've been waffling on if you want to ask some questions.
I want to ask your opinion on when we were talking about these high-performing individuals, and they are at a level at, let's say, an AE type of position, and they are bringing in the most revenue for your team. Would you push that person into leadership, or would you keep them where they are and keep turning over the revenue?
Depends on the person, right? I think it's understanding what their goals are for their career. And I think it's also educating them on the fact that leadership's not for everybody. A lot of people think leadership is for them, right? And I think in leadership, quite often, you've got to put the company's needs above your own personal needs, right? And I think an individual contributor can be off-put by that. There's many times that we have, got to say no to a deal because it's not the right customer for us, right? Or it's not the right payment format for us. Whereas individual contributor will just put that through, yeah? So I think it's about understanding and educating them. This is what a leadership role looks like, yeah? And then matching it with their current aspirations and goals for their career. And there's no harm in being a heavy hitter AE, making loads of commission, doing really, really good things, especially in enterprise. So I wouldn't force people into leadership, yeah, but I wouldn't recommend it for every single person I work with. But there's some people that are fantastic leaders and some that are just brilliant individual contributors.
I think it's honestly one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they think that the natural progression is you're the best salesperson, so you'll be the best leader, because it's the very old, I can do something, so I can teach you how to do it. Sure. But it's a big mistake, and I've seen and I've worked for and worked in environments where the best salesperson goes into a leadership position, and I really do truly think that you can learn to be a better leader, but I think leadership comes naturally. In our case, I'm not a natural leader, Sam is. I'm better at certain things, he's better at certain things, and I really think if you can couple together a great salesperson and an inspiring leader that people want to work for, then you got the best of both worlds. But really often it is just the best salesperson. And it might potentially have been the case when that happened to you, because you were just, from what I understand, the best salesperson. You probably didn't know then if you were going to be a good leader because you'd never done it.
Yeah.
And it works. It came naturally to you, right?
Yeah, it did come naturally to me. And yeah, it was the best. Alistair will vouch me for that.
Still to this day?
Still to this day, yeah.
You're still the best?
Just closed the deal on the way here, so yeah.
No one's come in you've been like...
To be fair, we got some really, really good people, right? And
you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks to you guys. Thanks to you boys. No, we've got some great people. And What was your question?
No, we were asking you to big yourself up, but we can move on. We can move on. Look, I think a good question is, do you ever miss it? Because I've done standoff roles where I have been in more of a leadership role. This is actually how we first connected, because we're both from that cowboy, purposely on your wireless headset, walking past the boss pitch and that kind of style. And when I stepped into a leadership position, I was 20 years old. I had 10 people underneath me. And I used to literally dial in and tell people what to say. And it frustrated me, and I missed actually being on the phone. Do you ever miss just being, or think about, being a sales rep again? Or is this your sort of destiny, without getting too deep?
Yeah. So the only thing I miss is the control. Okay. Yeah. So when you're obviously leading a team, like let's say it's end of quarter or end of month, and we need to find some deals, I can't just dip into my pipeline and pull out some deals. I've got to then push the other guy. So I think it's that element of control. And I recently have been doing some more pitching to some big hospital groups, and it's been really fun. But I think for me, it's more about, the reason I'm doing it is to more sharpen my tools so that I know what's happening on the ground, right? I don't ever want to be a leader that doesn't know how to pick a phone, book a meeting, doesn't know how to close a deal, right?
You've got to lead from the front, haven't you?
That's it, and that's my style. My style is lead by example, right? And I'll never ask them to do anything I won't do myself, right? So to your question, Cam, like I do miss it. I still do it now, just because you need to know what's happening on the ground, right? I attend pitches, I watch gong recordings and tele recordings, and to learn about what's happening. I go to client meetings, I do churn stuff, I do tech collection, I do all of it, right? Because it's important for me to have a well-rounded experience about what's happening, so I can educate myself to make the right decision for the region. Yeah.
How important, and I know you're starting to build this now, that second line. Obviously, you've got Nathan in Oz, you've got an SDR leader, or had an SDR leader, CSM leader, etc.
Yeah.
How important do you think delegation is in a leadership role?
It's really important. Really important. Like something that I still also struggle with, right? Is delegating and letting responsibility. But I think that comes with time. I got some great managers. One in the UE is fantastic, and one also in Australia. So Nathan, you mentioned, and those people I really trust. I think that's really important for me, is the trust element, that you're doing the right things, but also, it's my job to make sure that when I delegate, I also give some sort of guidance about what I expect from this task, or what we want from this new process change. It's a very, very important part, because if you can't grow a business just with one person, it has to be multiple people going in the same direction.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I remember going through a training session on leadership is actually letting go of being that person who looks after everything, and you've still got that element of control that you were talking about, and giving up that control puts you a little bit at unease. But the only way to grow in a business for yourself, but then also the team underneath you who are then striving for more responsibility, is to have that level beneath you that you completely trust. And if you don't trust them and you don't let go of certain things, you can't grow yourself. And the business essentially fails from that perspective as well, is because you need to keep layering it up and keep giving people responsibility. And if they feel like they're just pigeonholed in a certain responsibility and a certain job role, how are they going to be progressing in the business? And like you touched upon before, that progression plan, you need to have things in place to, give people that responsibility to then step up to the next kind of level. So I think it's massive. It's always something that I remember, because as a manager myself, I didn't really do that, and I didn't really have anyone underneath me that I thought, right, I need to push them through. I just thought, right, I can do it all myself.
Yeah, sure.
And then you just work stupid hours in the day, and then your team doesn't grow.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting point for sure. And what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you'd give to someone, stepping into that leadership position? You know, what does it take for someone to be successful in it?
You've got a really clear plan, right? I think that's the most important thing. Like, you move into a leadership role and you've got no plan, then what you're working towards, right? As I said earlier, you've got to find what are the 3 core pillars that you need to really improve, right? And then you need to build a plan around that. And then what's really important is you've got to communicate to the team that plan, get buy-in. Because you can't change anything unless you explain the why to the people they work with, right? Because they've got to understand why you're making this tough decision or why you're doing this thing, right? Because these are our 4 pillars or 3 pillars. That's what we want to achieve. So I think it's get a plan, get buy-in, and then keep reinforcing that plan. And then if you need to change it, change it.
Do you think emotion plays a strong part in leadership as well? Because without getting too deep, I've worked with you professionally and personally, and you're very good at, you know, when it's business, you talk to me completely different to when we're on the golf course, for example. Do you think stepping into a leadership team, would your advice really be about you have to take the emotion out of everything and just stay professional? Or do you think there's an element where you actually have to potentially put your arm around someone?
Yeah, I think it's both. Definitely both. And I think everyone's different, right? I think that's what's really important. You can't have the same approach with the same person, same people. So, you know, the approach I would have with this person versus this person could be completely different. Some people need the arm around them. Some people need to be more direct, be woken up, right? It's like the stick and carrot analogy. So I think, you know, you can't brush everyone with the same sort of management style, leadership style. And that's what I think makes someone effective, is having that different approaches for different people. You're bang on.
And age, obviously you were leading teams. I don't want to reveal your age to the audience, but you know, you were leading global teams in your mid-20s. How did you overcome that? Because I hate saying imposter syndrome, but I led a team at 20 of 10, you know, people a lot older than me. And I always felt like, oh my God, like, should I be telling a 40-year-old, a 35-year-old what to do? How did you deal with that? Did it ever enter your mind, or was it just very much, if you're old enough, you're good enough, you're old enough? Just out of interest.
Good question. I never had that because I wasn't brought in. I grew with the business.
Okay, mate.
So my history was already there, and you could go on Salesforce and see that I was one of the top billers, right? So you can listen to me, but the proof's here. So I didn't really have that, but I came into that SDR role in particular. I came into that role, and I wasn't an SDR. I was an AE at Doctify. So, and there was people that were older than me that I was managing, and that was a challenge, right? That was definitely a challenge, because the approach you have with a 21-year-old versus a 50-year-old,
very different.
It's completely different, right?
Different stage of their lives, right?
Well, yeah, and I think it was 27 at the time. I was managing someone a lot older than me, still people older than me, and the way you communicate to them, it's all about communication, right? It's what it is. The way you communicate to them is very different, right? And I think someone who's older needs to know more about the why, right? Okay. Why I'm asking to do this. Someone who's younger, who's is starting their sales career, they don't need as much convincing or explaining to them why you want this from them. So again, I think everything to do with leadership is around communication. It all links back to that, and I think communication in the UE is also different because different cultures, different people, different ages. So I think, yeah.
One big thing that I always learn in leadership, and you've touched upon it a few times, is the why, in terms of the decisions that you're making as a leader. But also, I think you've got to understand why these people are in the roles that they're in as well. You know, what is it that makes them tick? And it's finding that motivation. And like you said, every person is different. Some people want to work to provide for the family, or some people want materialistic things. And it's really uncovering all the whys of, you know, why they're doing the job exactly and why.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. But also you've got to be really careful, because when you get into your motivation, core motivation, sometimes very personal. Yeah. So when someone shares that with you, right, you got to make sure that you're not using that to manipulate them to do something that they shouldn't be doing, right? It's really important, right? Because people don't want to share. Like, so you got to build that trust with somebody. You got to make sure you're on their side, right? And then when you understand what really drives them, right, then you then can help them succeed and hit those goals, right? Sometimes I won't say, but some people's goals are very, very personal. Like why they're motivated to do something. So you've got to be sensible about understanding and then making sure that you together drive to the same goal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And look, as we kind of come to the end of the podcast, bit cliche, but highlight today in your career, however big, small, what is it?
Oh, wow. That wasn't on the pre-approved questions.
I've got one more for you after as
well. Half of them off the cusp.
Yeah, I noticed that. Highlight of my career so far.
Can be anything, whether it's something, professional, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But, whether it's a big deal you did, whether it's growing the UAE team, doing the sales enablement, going to try not to blow your head up too much here, but
yeah.
What would you say?
You know what? I think moving to the UAE and running the UAE sales team, and the Australia sales team from here, I think that was something that was really a sort of pinch myself moment. That I started in an office in Shoreditch, 25 people. I think a lot to even work in the office.
Doesn't surprise me in Shoreditch.
Yeah, right. yeah. To fast track myself in the UAE, managing an absolutely amazing team. Like, that team we have is brilliant, right? And then, with the help of some great people that you guys had for us, able to support Australia growth, right, from here. So I think that chapter in my career is probably the highlight of my career thus far.
Well, because you basically built that literally from the ground, didn't you, Australia?
Yeah, with Nathan's support, yeah.
But I mean, as in, from my memory, UAE was already in.
Yeah, UAE was already a large team, and I think when I moved to support Nathan with the Australia team, it was, I think, 1 or 2 AEs. Now we're at, I think, 7 or 8 AEs and 4 SDRs from here. And we now have our first ever international closer, which is also a passion project of mine. So someone who's going to close from this office in the UAE to Australia. So again, we've been able to successfully build teams that are selling into multiple different countries from this office. And I think, my vision for the next, part of the Doctify growth is, walk into an office and I see we have a team saying to Saudi, a team saying to Singapore, a team saying to Australia, UAE. And I would love for one of my team to be somewhere, coffee shop or a bar, and someone says to them, "What did you do today? Like, what's your day look like?" "Oh, I had a call in the morning with a company in Australia, and I had a call, another meeting in Saudi company, and I had a Singapore meeting." Like, that's a really interesting, diverse job. Like, that's what I want to create. And I think I'm really happy with what we've done so far, but there's so much more that we can do and grow into. And that's what excites me about the future. Yeah,
look, that was one thing that I loved about moving to the UAE as well, because I used to I did EMEA, which I was, it was amazing. One day I was calling people in Italy, then France, then South Africa, then Dubai. But being here, it's been global for me and Sam. So although you're working all hours of the day, it's culturally quite interesting. In the morning, I'm talking to people in Oz, then Singapore, then the US. It is cool. Sorry, you got one last question.
Yeah, I got one last question. So as a leader, what are your 3 non-negotiables that you demand from your team?
The number 1 would be accountability. Yeah. So hold yourself accountable and also hold your team accountable. That's really important to me. The other one would be honesty. Be honest to yourself, honest to the product, honest to your colleagues, honest to me. And the third one would be something around team first, myself last. That's really important because we won't grow as a group. We have one standout individual who's not helping the rest of the team. We only grow as a business and as a team, and then therefore, if we do that, we all have more opportunity as a team. So those are probably the three things that are core values to me and what I look for.
Good.
Any questions for us, Jack, at all before we let you go? I appreciate you're busy. Is there anything you want to
know? Okay, cool.
Direct to either of us as well.
Yeah. Let me just think of a hard one.
Go for it. I like a challenge.
What has been for you two the most challenging part about setting up a new business?
I honestly think that's easy for me. I don't know if Sam would agree, but me personally, I'm very good at sales and I'm very good at relationship building. I am not good at marketing. I'm not good at finance and operations. Sam's very good at all of those things. So for me, it's been, recruitment, a 360 recruitment role. It is a real big job on its own. You're doing everything from start to finish. When you then add in invoicing, accounting, buying technology to help the processes, getting, LinkedIn posts up, branding, that's been the hardest thing for me, along with as well, I used to struggle working remotely. So it's taken me a bit of time to be able to, work from cafes and, really focus at home. So they're the two main things for me.
I would have to completely agree. I think it's wearing all different hats at different points in the day, because recruitment in itself, doing a 360 role is ridiculously hard, in terms of finding enough hours in the day to get your data, to do all your cold calls, to send all your CVs, to format them all, to then set up interviews, prepping candidates, from start to finish. That end-to-end process is a very lengthy process. And I always say in recruitment, you could literally work 24 hours a day for 7 days a week and you'd still have things to do. It's just one of those industries. So as a owner of a company, to do that as it is, and then take on all the responsibility of, being head of finance, head of HR, head of marketing, trying to do all those to grow your brand and your business, alongside trying to keep everyone happy that is reaching out to you, in terms of candidates. And this region is one in particular where you get bombarded by hundreds of candidates, and obviously you want to reply to them all, but you genuinely haven't got the time to do it. And I think the time management and the organisation of building your business is, as well as doing the recruitment, is very, very challenging.
On that candidate thing, is there sort of any correlation between companies in terms of what they're looking for trait-wise from AEs or even SDRs?
In this region?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big thing, the obvious one is Arabic speakers, but a big one is actually regional experience. So as you said, it goes back to where we started the podcast. Not only having a black book to go after, but also understanding the culture of business here and how you need to sell and what you need to do and how you need to sieve out those opportunities that are genuine. So they're probably the two things when we're taking briefs, would you agree, that are always the same? Look,
that's interesting.
90% want an Arabic speaker. Some are, it's a nice to have. All of them want local experience, obviously industry experience. So as you know, if I find you someone who's sold into healthcare, great. I'd say they're the three main things. And one that's coming in now is sales methodology. It's still a couple of years behind. In Europe, everyone's, generally at medic train, medpic train, whatever it is. That's another thing that's coming in, but I'd probably say they're the main things.
Yeah, have to agree. The Middle East regional experience is absolutely vital. There's so many people from the UK who have only operated in Europe that are, banging on our doors saying, have you got roles for me in Dubai? But if you're not on the ground here, if you haven't sold into this region,
Sure.
you will be overlooked by people that are here and, that have got a proven track record of being in the Middle East. Because as you were touching upon earlier, the culture and the way of working in this region is completely different, and it's quite hard to pick up straight away. It does take time, and obviously companies that want to grow, they need people that can hit the ground quite quickly and just get into the role within the first couple of months. But yeah,
however,
yeah,
by the way, just to book stamp it, we've recently worked with an enterprise AE that doesn't speak Arabic and has never sold into the Middle East.
Yeah,
has managed to find a job here from the UK, relocated over, and done 175% of a $1 million ARR target in his first 6 months for a whole year.
Wow.
So we don't want anyone listening to think that it's impossible, because it isn't, because we've all done it, right? But it's just good to know those things and not take them personally, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of companies here, I think, they sell here internationally.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't necessarily need an Arabic experience or UE experience, sorry, to be selling here, right? You guys, you sell everywhere, right? So you could have someone dedicated just to the Europe market who's from the UK, etc., right? So
yeah, exactly.
It just helps.
It does help, yeah,
just
100%.
Puts you above, doesn't it?
So are you guys seeing more and more tech companies moving out here?
Yeah, I think, the UAE is a weird one. And the way I look at it is all the enterprise companies came 20, 30 years ago, Google, Oracle, blah, blah, blah. You've got a lot of startups coming out of, a lot in Saudi, a lot in Qatar, and a lot here. Mid-market is not, the Series C, D, E is not, I wouldn't say quite here yet, because companies, the way I look at it is they, majority of SaaS companies are from the US or Europe, really. And then there's a big portion from Singapore, Oz. And I feel like they all go the other way before landing here, unless they're born out of here. So, US goes to Europe, then to APAC, then to the Middle East. So in answer to this question, yes, but they're still a few years behind, but it's catching up.
And Saudi, is that are they looking for the same characteristics? So has to have Saudi regional experience, or are they more open to people with less experience in that region, or none?
I think even more so in Saudi than here, the Arabic speaking, just because, Saudi's still 75% local, right?
Yeah.
And quite often what I've learned from our business is if you're not a Saudi national, or at least an Arabic speaker, often they won't even give you the time of day. That's just their culture. You need to know someone who knows someone. It's very, very even more so than here, relationship driven. Again, though, to caveat that, there's a lot of successful Europeans and expats in Saudi
I know loads
who have specific skill sets.
Yeah.
So it's just a mixture.
One for you, Sam. When you have is there any common mistakes that sales leaders do with the interview process that we can improve on?
Good question, and this is something that we always try and give feedback on. Because we're prepping our candidates, we're taking the feedback from candidates. The big thing is the rapport building within an interview. Some companies will probably place themselves in a position where they think they don't need to sell the company or to actually tell them about the good things about the company. It's just question, and then judging them on the answers that they're giving. But obviously we know in sales, personality is a massive thing. And if you like someone and they like you, and they like the business and the culture of it, the fit is probably going to be better, because you're going to be more open to, listening to your leader, because you're buying, you're getting more buy-in from them. And I think one key thing for me is just to, even if you don't think they're the right fit, giving them a good experience. They'll probably tell their friends, I had a really good interview with, Doctify last week. Didn't quite make it, but, he could be telling one of the best salespeople there. And then your reputation as a company gets around the market, and then people want to work, you know, for you, essentially. And, you know, it's your own personal brand as a leader, but then also you representing the company as well. So giving that experience is absolutely key.
It's a small region and people talk.
Yeah. I think it's so valuable. I think that's totally valuable.
But people forget, and also from a candidate side, they forget that as much as you're being evaluated, you've got to evaluate the person you're talking to and the company, because as I said, it goes back to what do people look for when they're looking for a new role. If you look at someone and think, I can't work for you, then the opportunity may be amazing, but it's going to end in failure, right?
One more, sorry.
Go for it.
That feedback, right, is really important, okay? Do you ever find that sales leaders take that feedback in the wrong way? How do you give them that? How do you give them that feedback, and without them feeling offended?
We've had it recently, haven't we?
Yeah.
Is that? I can imagine you get offended by that.
You know what? I don't know if you want to answer, but we've had it recently, and you know, it's all about what you said. It's about communication. It's about delivery. It's about not offending someone, and just saying, this is the feedback we've been given. We're consultants, right? It's our job to consult you and pass on feedback we've been given. It's not coming from us, and it's not personal. It's about how you communicate with them. And generally, I'd do it as, this is the feedback I've been given. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, it's no soft that way.
You know, and if they say no, you just advise them and just say, look, it might not be something that you're meaning to, but it might be your interview style. This might just be the way you're coming across, just to make you aware. This is the feedback.
Yeah.
And look, if they don't take it on, it makes our job difficult, and that's where you have to make an evaluation if it's a company you want to work with. To be honest, because it
affects you, right?
It's got to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah, it affects your reputation.
People reject offers based on, you know, their interview process. The company might absolutely love them and think, right, we've got this person, but if you haven't given them a good experience, the feeling, you know, isn't quite matched, and yeah, you do lose people over it. So it's a big topic, but yeah, as Cam rightly said, the way that you deliver it to your clients is important. You can't go in there all guns blazing saying, you've just ruined this process because you haven't given them. Obviously, that's not the right approach. But if you go in there and just say, look, are you happy to take some feedback from you know, the data that we've got from the candidates that have interviewed with you? This is how you can probably improve the process. This is how you can make it better. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And obviously you're not trying to belittle them and make them feel like they're the worst interviewer in the world. But like Cam said, we're consultants. We should be doing that. And as I touched on before, the reputation then will just get better and better and better.
Yeah.
They took it well, by the way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Which is good. No, they just look, just on that example, they said it's not something we heard before, but we appreciate you bringing it to our attention, and things improved. So you sometimes don't even know you're doing it, right?
Yeah, like interviewing in itself is a skill. Like leaders will think that they can interview, and they don't actually know the process of interview because they've never done it before, or they're new into leadership. Right? Can you interview this person?
Yeah, sure.
And they think, right, let's get a set of average questions. They don't think about the questions, and it's, why do you want to work for us? What do you know about us? And those types of questions are so old now that they put the candidate on the spot, and it comes across in the wrong way. It's more about, you know, asking the candidate their experience, you know, and get them talking about themselves, and then you can see how they can deliver and sell themselves, you know, especially in a sales position. So yeah, important topic for anyone listening.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. I know you're a busy man. It's
Thanks,
great, you know, some great insights from your sides. Thanks to everyone for listening, of course. And yeah, I hope it was beneficial for you as well.
Really, really, really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Jack. Thanks for coming.